What's up, Wall fans? What's up, especially beer fans? That's right, it's another edition of Go Tell It to the Brewery. I always want to say weekly edition because I'm so used to it with Go Tell It to the Wall podcast, but this is really definitely not a weekly thing. It's kind of like when we get some new beers in, we do little beer reviews. And for this edition, we have a very special beer from Spider Bite Beer Company out of New York. They are actually out of Holbrook, New York, originally out of Holbrook, New York. Now, what I love about this particular brewery, and especially if you are an avid Wall fan, big fan of the podcast, big fan of kind of the Go Tell It to the Wall enterprise, for lack of a better word, you know, a big slogan we use is have passion. Whatever you do, whatever you're doing, have passion when you're doing it, in addition to the common sense. Always common sense. But it's have passion. And the reason, an extra thing I like about Spider Bite Beer Company is one of the founders actually went to school to become a chiropractor and was about to open his own practice and went to like a beer brewing convention and realized he had a serious passion for brewing beer. And so instead of becoming a chiropractor and opening his practice and all that other stuff, he pursued his passion and founded Spider Bite Beer Company with a friend of his. Now, the name of I like to go through all these things on the smaller breweries. They actually came up with a name because they're out on a camping trip one summer and got a bunch of spider bites. That's how you come up with a name for your freaking brewery, is just something personal, but also something cool. So when you see Spider Bite, it's not like the stereotypical brewery names that you see out there. So this particular brew is actually their very first beer that they had brewed for Spider Bite Beer Company, and it's called First Bite, appropriately First Bite. It is a pale ale. It's close to an IPA, interestingly enough. I will tell you, it's close to a pale ale, or close to an IPA. It's definitely a pale ale, so it's not quite as hoppy as a lot of the IPAs that you would see out there, especially these West Coast IPAs, where I feel like they're trying to challenge you, like Stone and some of those others that are just like, we're going to throw as many hops in here as possible. It's not quite like that, but it's definitely a little hoppier than your typical pale ale that you may find, like a Sierra Nevada, you know, one of those kind of lighter pale ales that isn't quite an IPA, an imperial pale ale. And that, I would say that's where this Spider Bite First Bite falls into. Highly recommend it if you're a pale ale fan, and we especially like to support these smaller breweries. Like I said, have passion. This guy has passion about his craft and created this brewery with fantastic beer. And in fact, on one of our next episodes, our next episodes, as what definitely next episode of Go Tell Us the Wall podcast, we're actually going to have one of their imperial stouts from Spider Bite Beer Company, so we'll be reviewing that as well. We'll definitely have it on an episode of Go Tell to the Wall, most likely over our next couple episodes. I can never be positive. It's like, I decide day of, kind of what beer we're going to put on those podcasts. So it will be coming up. We'll do an official beer review video, of course, for Go Tell to the Brewery. But for today, we have the Spider Bite Beer Company First Bite Pale Ale. Highly recommend it. It's probably going to be hard to find if you're on the West Coast. The only reason I've got this one is I have a nice little beer subscription where they send me crazy beers from around the country like every couple months, and that's how I got onto this one. But if you're on the East Coast, you can definitely find it, I'm sure. Again, came out of New York. Now it is distributed by a company out of Ipswich, Massachusetts. Those crazy Massachusetts people might have a different... Ipswich, I don't know. They always pronounce their town names differently, so I can never tell. But I call it Ipswich, you know, as you should, because that's how you pronounce certain things. My father will tell you differently. He's from Boston, he's from Massachusetts, and we get into constant arguments about how you pronounce those names. Nonetheless, check out Spider Bite First Bite Pale Ale. I'm enjoying it. It's a tasty one. It's a tasty one. And remember, beer fans, wall fans, common sensors. We're going to start using that a lot more, common sensors. Whatever you're drinking, whenever you're doing it, whoever you're doing it with, always remember to drink with common sense.